Okay, so, oh, fuck. Ah, shit. Okay, we good? We good. Alright. Starting again. Oh. Alright, you know what, let's get it. Get the energy up. Okay. Ready. And energy back down. Oh, fuck. Sorry. I mean, I was out. I got drunk, and now I'll come back. And I made a tweet on Twitter saying like, hey, yeah, I want to make a video. What should I make this video about? And I gave 3 options because 3 things came to mind at the time. One of them was the dislike button and why I think YouTube should remove it because it's really, really dumb to have it, but not quite as dumb as all the comments I got from people who were declaring their love for the fucking button. Like, and removing it would be censoring opinions and all kinds. And this stupid fucking video, the amount of people who sent me this, holy shit, it was one of the worst fucking videos I've ever seen on any subject. It sets out to respond to criticism by not fucking responding to the criticism. It's amazing. So yeah, that's most likely gonna still be happening at some point, because holy shit. It also seemed to piss off all the right people. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to that one. The other idea was basically responding to comments, which is, again, something I probably will do at some point. But until then, it seemed quite unanimous that everybody wanted me to respond to Sargon's last video. Now, unbeknownst to me, that whilst I was out, Sargon had uploaded another video. So at the time when I made the poll, I was thinking that that video would be his interview with Black Pigeon Speaks, which has to be gold. Okay, I haven't seen it yet, but, you know, come on. Like, Sargon, Black Pigeon Speaks in a room, you know they're gonna be saying some fucked up shit. And then you have the extra comedy value of Black Pigeon Speaks having his avatar over his face, even though he isn't anonymous, which is ridiculous. I mean, as if you can't just Google his YouTube username, click on images, and then see his actual frigging face just everywhere. You know what? It's weird, man. Like there is a lot of that. We definitely will be talking about that at some point. Like the amount of things that aren't a secret, that aren't privileged information anymore, but everyone just fucking pretends that it is. Like, everyone pretends Black Pigeon Speaks is anonymous when he fucking isn't. And it's really weird. It's really fucking weird how everyone pretends that I don't know. Alright, whatever. Fuck it. I thought we'd be going through that. But apparently, we're going to be talking about Muslims and Tommy Robinson. Oh my god, I swear this motherfucker's got like 5 subjects that he just keeps repeating and going through and again and again and again. But whatever, we're dealing with this one now. Because it was voted. The people had to say they voted. I mean, I don't like it. I would have rather it gone a different way. And I mean, truth be told, if I knew then what I knew now, if I had the information, if I had the full facts at my disposal at the time that we had that vote, then, you know, I probably would have voted a different way. So I would have probably liked to do a different vote. I probably would have liked to have another vote, but I'm told that would be undemocratic. Don't know how. You'd think 1 vote is democratic, 2 votes would be like doubly democratic, but apparently not. Apparently no. So we're sticking with this. We're going to persevere, and just remember, if it goes to shit, it's all your fault. It's not the fault of the people who didn't vote for this. It's not the fault of the people who didn't vote at all. It's specifically the people who voted. You fucking people, this is all on you, alright? Okay. Don't worry, it's probably going to be fine.
It raised a lot of eyebrows when former UKIP leader Jared Batten appointed Tommy Robinson to be his personal advisor on grooming gangs and prison reform.
Oh, that's a fucking understatement of the century. Jesus Christ. Yeah. It would do. Yeah. And that might have something to do with the fact that Tommy Robinson isn't even qualified to hold a UKIP membership card. Never mind advise policy to the fucking leader of the party. I mean, yeah. Like, this is the thing. Anyone, you can go check this, right? Anyone can go check this. To this fucking day, you can go check this. Go to ukip.org, click join, scroll to the bottom of that page, and you'll see the very last thing you have to do to join to become a member of UKIP. And it's something that Sargon, Dankler, all of them would have had to fucking do. You have to tick a box to confirm that you are not and never have been a member of the EDL, the English Defence League, the BNP, British National Party, or the BFP, the British Freedom Party. Now, Tommy Robinson was not only the founder and leader of the EDL, he was not only the co-vice chairman of the BFP, he was also a member of the BNP. So that's three strikes, motherfucker, okay? They don't want people like him to be members. They don't want to get the kind of people who those organizations appeal to in their party. They wanted to have a clear statement to be like, yeah, this party isn't for you motherfuckers. We see you, we see what you do, everything you touch turns to shit, and we are aware that our policies will appeal to you. So we want your votes, but we don't want any of the stink that you bring to our party. So we're just gonna say, like, if you remember these things, you can't join. Sorry. So when the leader of UKIP appoints Tommy Robinson as a special advisor on two of the most contentious fucking things that he could be advising anybody on, it kind of elicits a question, that question being, oh, why? Well, what do you hope to achieve there? Like, if you don't want the kind of people in your party that Tommy Robinson seems to do a good job of attracting, then why are you getting involved with him? It doesn't make any sense.
At this point, I'm not even sure what the media thinks Tommy Robinson actually believes.
Oh my god, Carl, you're not 10 years old, for fuck's sake. No one gives a fuck about what you think you believe. Especially when the shit you say you believe is often contradicted by the shit you say and do. Which, by the way, is what we actually give a fuck about. We give a fuck about the shit you say and the shit you do. There is an effect you have on the world for which you are the cause. That's what people give a fuck about. Why you're the cause of a problem is incidental to the problem.
So it probably comes as a surprise to them when Jared Batten says that Tommy Robinson, real name Stephen Yaxley Lennon, has great knowledge about the issues. As far as I can tell, this is true. In the conversations I've had with Tommy Robinson, he does appear to indeed know what he's talking about in this regard.
And did it ever occur to you that perhaps maybe you're as uninformed and biased as he is, or did you just wait to get out? Oh, fuck it, whatever. What am I even doing?
And he has been saying for years that prisons are a breeding ground for Islamic radicalism.
Yes, Cole, you take a bunch of people willing to do violence and willing to encourage other people to do violence, you lock them up in a cage, and you treat them badly enough to give them incentive to bond. Welcome to how fucking stupid the modern prison system is. This isn't news, Carl. No one disagrees with this issue. No one disagrees that this is an issue. But it's a multifaceted issue. And it's one that's not made any better by isolating people to be persecuted and treated as outsiders, validating the very rhetoric that people looking to radicalize them will use. Nobody's denying that there is an issue with Islamic extremism in prisons and shit, Carl. What they're denying is that people like you and Tommy Robinson are part of the solution. Because you're part of the problem.
To protect from other gang violence, everyone in these high-security prisons forms gangs and joins gangs, and the Islamists and jihadis form a gang around the identity of Muslim, and they use this to browbeat and bully and threaten other Muslims in the prison into joining their gang, and then into converting the non-Muslim population, if possible.
Okay, now, everything there is basically accurate to a certain extent. I mean, he says everyone in these high-security prisons joins gangs. That's not true. That's an overstep, but what the fuck ever. Like, in general, it's those are all legitimate points. But now, watch what he does here.
Naturally, this is heresy to the radical left who want to pretend that Islam has never done anything wrong, and that there are literally no problems with it at all.
And therein is the game. So, you state something that's true, you give the impression some faceless opposition disagrees with factual statements, which gives your opposition, or perceived opposition, a weaker platform from which to argue, and then if they refuse to take the bait because they generally aren't the straw man you wish they fucking were, then you can claim that even your opposition agrees with your position, and it makes you seem even more legitimate. I mean, well done, Carl. I mean, that'll get you a passing grade in Manipulating Morons 101, but for people who aren't morons, they may be left questioning, who exactly are these leftists who are arguing that gang formation, intimidation, and violence in prisons isn't something to worry about? That who are these leftists who are saying that's perfectly fine?
And so they published this article,
Oh, it's Vice. Okay. Right. The well-known fucking radical leftist fucking... Oh, fuck. Didn't Tim Pool used to work for Vice? Oh, fucking hell, the ride never ends. Alright, Colin Carl, tell me what the communists say. Why do I get a feeling we're gonna be entering another... There's gonna be yet another volume into fucking Carl Can't Read. Oh, how many times? Alright, well, maybe not. Okay, let's see. I'll go find this article.
A prison guard debunks Tommy Robinson's Muslim gang claims. A guard fact-checks his fear of Muslim gangs. The guard says, I've never personally come across a single Islamic extremist in prison, let alone entire gangs of them. I've heard the occasional story from members of staff about inmates who have tried to force their religion on others, but that kind of thing isn't commonplace in the jails that the majority of the regular, run-of-the-mill criminals are housed in. The situation is slightly different in high-security prisons, which are reserved for inmates who are either highly dangerous or classed as escape risks. Gangs of Islamic extremists are far more powerful and prevalent in these facilities, but this type of jail only makes up around 5% of the prison system. It is unlikely Tommy Robinson would find himself in a high-security setting given the nature of his crime. There aren't too many people in Category A prisons for contempt of court.
I don't know, Carl. Seems legit.
In summary, nothing that Tommy Robinson is saying is legitimate, even though it is legitimate.
What? Hey, what? What?
It's not what normally happens, so we don't need to talk about it.
No, Carl. He's not saying it doesn't happen. He's not denying that it's not. He's what? Huh?
Yes, there is some tension between the Islamist and non-Islamist gangs. Yes, there are some hate preachers who are preaching, but at the moment, it's not most of them, so we don't need to worry about that at all. In fact, Tommy Robinson is just a bigot.
How are you not understanding this? How are you not understanding that it's a question of scale he's talking about? Because Tommy Robinson was talking about like being murdered by Islamic extremists, and he was fanning the flames of that shit. And so with people like you, like just basically, it's a fucking scam. It was Tommy Robinson's going to prison. He might be getting murdered by Muslims. We need to get him out. Send us money. That's what it was about. That's what that whole fucking thing was about. It was send us your money. He wasn't going to fucking Strangeways or something. He was in, what is it? Fucking Hull, I think. And apparently he said he was fine in Hull. And Hull was a Category B prison. He said he didn't have trouble until he moved to Onley. And Onley's a Category C prison. Onley used to be a youth offenders institution. It used to be a borstal. So, I mean, you can go on YouTube and you'll find people who have been making like rap videos, like inmates been making rap music videos and shit whilst they've been in there. It's fucking, it is insanely low security. Like, they let them get away with fucking murder, by all accounts. So maybe it's time to start entertaining the possibility that maybe Tommy Robinson's experiences of prison are unique to him. Maybe it's time to start considering that if you are the patron saint of Islamophobic bigots, then, you know, maybe you're gonna have a bit of a tough time anywhere you go. Especially if you have a reputation for violence and getting involved in violence, which he does. I think what I'm saying here, what I'm putting on the table is maybe Tommy Robinson's biggest problem is the fact that he's Tommy Robinson. And maybe the problem with being Tommy Robinson is with all the shit that Tommy Robinson does. Just putting it out there, you know, maybe something to consider.
Of course, a report from Vice magazine probably isn't as credible as a report from the Ministry of Justice.
Holy fuck, look at Carl, going straight to a government source. I thought I'd never see the day. Wow, alright, okay, well, shit. I thought this was going to be low tier bullshit, but apparently, apparently he's stepping up. Okay, my body is ready, Carl, but my cup is empty, so I'm going to go sort that out right now. But you go ahead.
And as reported by The Times, Muslim gangs are apparently beating prisoners who will not convert to Islam.
Ah, okay, right, yeah, I should have known. He's not going to the government source, he's going to an article about that source. Alright, okay, fine. I mean, he's only talking to 1 million people. Why the fuck would he go straight to the source? Why would he spend like 5 minutes going, in fact, you know what? Let's do this live. Let's see if we can find this fucking thing. Let's see. Muslim prison gangs report. Okay, there's fifth link. No, fourth link. Is it the fourth link? Is this it? Exploring the nature of Muslim gangs related to gang activity. Yeah, okay. So this must be it. In 2019. That's how long it takes to find the fucking source of this shit. Like, yeah. Did a million, like, this guy, he's earning like 4 figures a fucking day to do this shit. And he can't take 4 seconds to dig into the actual... fuck me.
The gangs operated under the guise of religion with a hierarchy of leaders, recruiters, enforcers, followers, and foot soldiers, the report by the Ministry of Justice said. One non-Muslim inmate said there is an underlying pressure for people to convert and join the gang. Their tactic is to befriend someone when they come in. If they don't convert, then they will start spreading rumours about them, that the person is a snitch and so on, and they will be ostracised. Then the beatings follow. Gang members told researchers that their strength of numbers on the wings spread fear among the other inmates. One Muslim prisoner said, they know they're only going to 3 other jails, and they know there will be brothers waiting there to stab them. Terrorists often held the most senior roles in the gangs, which enforced rules such as wearing underpants in the shower and a ban on cooking bacon. Prisoners who could speak Arabic or learn passages from the Quran were favoured in the ranks, while beatings were used to force inmates to convert to Islam and join gangs. Leaders of the gangs themselves were believed to be the instigators of much of prison violence, but kept themselves out of trouble by ordering enforcers and foot soldiers to carry out the attacks. Gang members were believed to control the movement of contraband such as mobile phones and drugs. Money was made by taxing inmates, the report said. And of course, you would be punished if you tried to leave the gangs, the most serious of which was for denouncing Islam. And one prisoner said, if I didn't want to be a Muslim, I'd need to watch out in case someone stabbed me. In addition to the gangs, researchers found a wider group referred to as the Muslim Brotherhood, which were the only significant group found in the jails. This comprised inmates wanting to practice their faith as a way of turning their life around and coping with jail. And there are currently about 13,000 Muslim prisoners in England and Wales, and that's about 15% of the total jail population. And in 2018, 175 prisoners were serving sentences for terrorist offences linked to Islamist extremism. Steve Gillian, the General Secretary of the Prison Officers Association, said, we have been warning for some time about the growth of a gang culture, whether it is the so-called Muslim Brotherhood or others. It is alarming that this report shows that gang culture is now rife within the high-security prisons. Now, the prison service themselves acknowledges that there is a problem with Islamic gangs in prison radicalising people. This is the opinion of the Ministry of Justice and of Tommy Robinson.
Okay, so full disclosure, at this point I've watched the rest of the video and I've also read the report, and I've unfortunately sobered up a little bit, so this is going to be way less fun. But I let that bit play out because to understand why there are problems with what he just said, you have to kind of see where he went with it and then where he eventually ends up. Because the things he's saying were in the report. But the devil's in the details. And of course, the little thing I like to call context. It seems to fuck everything up. It's also going to be interesting to go through this due to the conclusions the report came to. And it's going to be interesting to juxtapose that with the conclusions that Carl came to toward the end of the video. Especially given the policy positions that he, Tommy Robinson, and indeed UKIP proposed and supported. So let's establish some facts right out of the gate. In England and Wales, there are somewhere in the region of 85,000 people in prison. And we have 4 types of prison. The first type is category D, which are called open prisons. Open prisons are barely prisons. They revolve around trust, fundamentally. Like, security is minimal, cells are rarely locked, prisoners are given leave to do things outside of prison, like work and study. They primarily serve as an option to prevent risk to short-term prisoners serving sentences for minor crimes, and as a platform to reintegrate prisoners pending release back into the community. I think they're starting to be phased out now, but they still exist in some capacity. So being assigned to one is seen as a privilege more than anything. The second category is Category C, which, like all the other prisons we'll be talking about, is a closed prison. They're primarily for people who have a sentence of a year or more for actual crimes like violent crimes, sex offenses, drug dealing, etc. Third type is Category B. These are for people on longer sentences, and then the last type will be for Category A, which is maximum security. Now, it's important to note that you can go up and down the categories depending on your own circumstance, but generally speaking, people in Category C aren't considered safe enough to be in Category D, and people in Category B aren't considered to be of such a high risk that they should be in Category A. Anything to do with extremism or terrorism or any shit like that, anything that would make you a risk to the general public or national security, will get your ass sent directly to Category A. So, how many Category A prisons are there in the UK? There are 8, and they house roughly 6,000 prisoners, which means 7.2% of prisoners in England and Wales are in Category A prisons, and 22% of the population of those 8 prisons are Muslim, which means we're talking about a possible 1,300 people. Or to put it another way, that's roughly 1% of the prison population of the UK. Yeah, we're talking about 1% of the population of prisons. And you know what's even sadder? The more we go into this, the more we'll find that it's probably nowhere even close to that. So now we know the scope of this issue, let's re-establish the context for this discussion so there can be no confusion. Tommy Robinson is constantly talking about how prisons in the UK are used as recruiting grounds for Islamic extremists to radicalize and convert people.
The ideas of Islamism are actually spreading in the prison system.
They're ISIS training camps. The white lads, the black lads, everyone is converting. Everyone has a big, huge beard.
He used this rhetoric to paint himself as a martyr after being sent to prison for stupid shit he could have easily avoided, insisting that when he goes to prison, the hordes of rampaging Islamist gangs will attempt to kill him.
This was another attempt again by the state to put my life in danger and put me back in prison to have me killed. They're scared of the unity I bring to people and the opposition I bring to Islam. And currently they wish to do anything they can to pave the way for Islam to spread across our country.
Effectively painting the narrative that the UK government are trying to kill Tommy Robinson. In response to this bullshit, Vice has an actual prison guard write an article about some of these claims. Sargon, being an insufferable Tommy Robinson dick rider, digs up a Times article about a Ministry of Justice report that he believes validates Tommy Robinson and most likely himself. So, now we have some basic information and the full context established, we're left with the question, does this report back up Tommy Robinson? And indeed, Sargon himself? Well, in a word, no, it fucking doesn't. For a multitude of reasons, which we'll be going into, but the primary one being the methodology of this report. Because this report was conducted in high security prisons, of which the report states there are 8 of, which means that they were Category A, because there's only 8 Category A prisons in the UK. And if they're talking about Category A prisons, well, the Vice article clearly stated that the situation in Category A prisons was far different from the rest of the prison system, because Category A prisons are far more likely to house hate preachers and terrorists and all the other people who are in Category A prisons because they present a risk of radicalizing other inmates. So the point of contention for the prison guard wasn't Category A prisons. It was everything outside of Category 8 prisons he was contesting. So, yeah, another entry into the annals of Sargon can't read. I mean, he didn't even need to read the report for that one. He just had to read the article. The Vice article. That's all he had. Okay, well, whatever. We're not done. Because that's the main point that just basically flatlines everything Sargon said right from the off. But let's dance on his grave a little bit and get through this like point for point, because there's other stuff that's worth pointing out here as well, just to really ram it home before we get to the conclusion.
The gangs operated under the guise of religion with a hierarchy of leaders, recruiters, enforcers, followers, and foot soldiers, the report by the Ministry of Justice said.
Okay, so what people need to understand is one of the key things in this report, one of the main things it was attempting to do, was create a distinction between a gang and a group, because everyone in prison forms groups. So what is the difference between a grouping of prisoners and a prison gang? That was one of the things that this report was attempting to kind of analyze and break down. And that's the reason why this report makes a very clear distinction between the grouping of what people refer to as the Muslim Brotherhood and the gang that is embedded within it. When this report is talking about Muslim Brotherhood, it's not talking about a gang. It's not referring to a gang. When it's referring to a gang, it's referring to a gang. And Sargon doesn't understand this because he's got no intellectual curiosity and doesn't fucking read. So as we go through these, you'll see him consistently flip between the two, not realizing that they're very different things. And we'll go through them as they occur. But for this bit, that's why the phrase at the beginning that Sargon completely blew by, the gangs operated under the guise of religion, that's incredibly important within the context of this report. Because what Sargon would have you believe is that the core component of this is the religion, when it's actually the gang. To the gang, the religion is almost incidental. It's really not that big a factor. Which is why the paragraph Sargon just read clearly states that they are operating under the guise of a religion, and why they spoke to many Muslims who were not part of the gang to get their perspective on the activities of the gang and their opinions regarding the people who were a part of it. Some of which we'll be going through in a minute.
One non-Muslim inmate said there is an underlying pressure for people to convert and join the gang. Their tactic is to befriend someone when they come in. If they don't convert, then they will start spreading rumours about them, that the person is a snitch and so on, and they will be ostracised. Then the beatings follow.
Okay, I don't have access to the article Sargon's reading right now because it's behind a paywall. I mean, I could get it, but all I would really need that article for is to prove that Sargon is like disingenuous or something, and I already fucking know he is, so whatever. But whether he knows it or not, the part of the report that he's reading from by proxy at this point is page 11, 4.2, gang structure and roles. And basically what it's doing is it's highlighting roles found within the gang. And it's divided them into leaders, recruiters, enforcers, and followers. And it's describing how each one of those roles function. Now, the bit that he's reading from right now is pertaining to recruiters. I don't know if he thinks that the idea that there are gangs in prisons and that those gangs recruit people and they use nefarious means to recruit people who are reluctant to join. I don't know if he thinks that's a revelation to people, but yeah, these statements aren't just general statements that he's reading. They're not apropos or nothing. They are pertaining to very specific things that Sargon would know about if he actually bothered to read the report. Worth pointing out because Sargon is bound to see this and he's bound to send people to it. And God bless them, they're just not very bright, you know? Like they... what they take it on face value. They go, whoa, this is from a government report. If that means it's true and it backs up everything. Whoa, chummy. Yeah, no, that's not the way this shit works. It is pertaining to these aren't just general statements, they're not apropos or nothing, they pertain to very specific things, and you need to read them in the correct context to understand what they're actually talking about. And we shall see exactly how much you value the truthiness of this report when we get to the end, because that's going to be interesting.
Gang members told researchers that their strength of numbers on the wings spread fear among the other inmates. One Muslim prisoner said, they know they're only going to 3 other jails, and they know there will be brothers waiting there to stab them.
Okay, now, important to note, this isn't the same, section that he was reading from before. This isn't to do with recruitment. We've now skipped 3 pages forward in the report, and we're dealing with a section about the impact that gangs have on prisoners and staff. Also, missing from this quote, this extract or whatever, it says, they know they're going to 3 other jails and they know there will be brothers waiting to stab them. There is a bit in the report that comes before that, and it starts with, other prisoners are scared of us. They know they're only going to 3 other jails and they know there will be brothers waiting to stab them. That is a quote from a gang member. That is someone who is in the gang who is saying that. So when he is saying brothers, he's not just a general Muslim prisoner. He is an actual member of the actual gang that is embedded within that group called the Muslim Brotherhood.
Terrorists often held the most senior roles in the gangs, which enforced rules such as wearing underpants in the shower and a ban on cooking bacon. Prisoners who could speak Arabic or learn passages from the Quran were favoured in the ranks, while beatings were used to force inmates to convert to Islam and join gangs.
Okay, now we see how we're jumping all over this fucking report, which is going to completely fuck up the context of it. Because this right here is a summary of the other roles. Like, remember we said like leaders, enforcers, followers, and recruiters? Well, this bit right here is a summary of the leader and enforcer role. So we started off at page 11, then we skipped to page 15, and now we're going back to page 12 and 13.
Leaders of the gangs themselves were believed to be the instigators of much of prison violence, but kept themselves out of trouble by ordering enforcers and foot soldiers to carry out the attacks. Gang members were believed to control the movement of contraband such as mobile phones and drugs. Money was made by taxing inmates, the report said.
Okay, that was from a part of the report called gang behavior, and I don't really know what to say. Like, yeah, it's a gang. Gangs do what gangs do. What are you gonna say? I don't whatever.
And of course, you would be punished if you tried to leave the gangs, the most serious of which was for denouncing Islam. And one prisoner said, "If I didn't want to be a Muslim, I'd need to watch out in case someone stabbed me."
Okay, now this was really interesting, and it's interesting for a couple of reasons. Firstly, it's disingenuous as all fuck. And secondly, I don't think it's Carl's fault. I think this is whoever wrote this article for the Times, because it's interesting how the report goes out of its way to be as specific as possible, and this article seems to not. So this is based on a section 4.6 called Leaving the Gang, and it's on page 16. And for the sake of context, I'll quickly read the intro to this. 4.6 Leaving the Gang. Respondents discussed how some form of retaliation or punishment would be exacted on members trying to exit the gang, which ranged from being ostracized and bullied to serious violence. Repercussions would be the most severe for gang members who wanted to denounce Islam. It was reported that each high security prison had gang leaders who communicated with each other, so leaving the gang while still in high security could be difficult and tended not to happen. Then it has this quote here, but then it continues, leaving the gang was only considered possible when they were transferred to a lower category prison where the gang had less presence. And then it goes into the quote that the Times used in the article that Carl just read, which was,
"If I didn't want to be a Muslim, I'd need to watch out in case someone stabbed me."
Except that's only a partial quote. The full quote from the report is, "Once I go to a Cat B prison, I'll say goodbye to Islam. If I said I didn't want to be a Muslim, I'd need to watch out in case someone stabbed me. It's very dangerous to denounce Islam. It'll be nice to be true to myself." Muslim prisoner. Oh, that's not right. Who the fuck wrote this report? That's not oh my god. Fucking hell. I don't want to be a Muslim, said the Muslim prisoner. Jesus. That's fucking insensitive as shit. But again, let's just quickly confirm that what this is talking about is Category A prisons exclusively. The report is based on Category A prisons, and everyone seems to be aware that the situation in Category A prisons isn't typical of everywhere.
In addition to the gangs, researchers found a wider group referred to as the Muslim Brotherhood, which were the only significant group found in the jails. This comprised inmates wanting to practice their faith as a way of turning their life around and coping with jail.
A paragraph I'm guessing Sargon only included because it contained the phrase Muslim Brotherhood and the various connotations that term conjures up.
The Egyptian Prime Minister has formally designated the Muslim Brotherhood a terrorist organization. Hazem al-Biblawi accused the group of a suicide bomb attack that ripped through a police station in the Nile Delta on Tuesday.
So at this point, I'd like to direct everybody to page 10 of the report, specifically the footnote here where it defines the term brotherhood. The term brotherhood was used by respondents to describe the Muslim group in prisons, but was not part of the Society of Muslim Brothers or Muslim Brotherhood, that is a Sunni Islamist organization. So to all the people who are in Sargon's comment section right now talking about how the Muslim Brotherhood should be labeled a supporter of terror like Trump wants to do in the US, and in case you guys aren't aware, the Muslim Brotherhood is a growing extremist group in Islam that has implemented itself through most of the world, and etc, etc. Okay, first and foremost, congratulations, you watched Fox News like 2 years ago, have a cookie, and shut the fuck up, because that's not what they're talking about. It's simply the name that's applied to the group of Muslims in prisons. And the report goes in depth in this as well, and it speaks to people who say things like, Islam is a brotherhood. When you find out someone someone is religious, straight away you are friends, you have spirituality. The report goes on to talk about how most of the people interviewed acknowledged that the majority of Muslim prisoners fell into that category, where following the faith for genuine reasons, staff were able to recognize that this was a positive step towards rehabilitation, and prisoners spoke of converting to Islam because it offered a stricter life and a way to change their life around. As one member of staff said, prisons can be a very lonely environment. Any interaction that offers a sense of belonging becomes very attractive to new receptions or those having underlying issues. And in that same section, which seems to go unnoticed from Sargon and apparently I can assume the Times article, it also talks about how it's also widely discussed that a small group of Muslim prisoners was operating as a gang under the guise of religion. They were embedded within the wider Muslim Brotherhood, but unlike the Brotherhood, they had little interest in the faith and saw membership of the gang as an opportunity to be anti-authority, violent, and intimidating. Brotherhood members went out of their way to distance themselves from the gang. Muslim prisoners wanting to become more immersed in the faith were especially vocal in their criticism of the gang and spoke about their attempts to disassociate themselves from the violence and gang activity, as well as any extremist agenda. Comments from prisoners in this section include, "I'm headstrong. People ask me why I don't defend them. If they're wrong, I'll tell them. Being Muslim isn't being in a gang." Another person said, "One of the gang members asked me why I'm not fasting. So then I asked him to name one of the pillars of Islam and he couldn't answer. They're dangerous. It's frightening. It's ignorance." So hopefully some of you can start to see what I was talking about when I was saying that this report makes a lot of effort to distinguish between the Muslim Brotherhood, as in the group of Muslims within the prison system, and the gangs that are embedded within those groups. It makes a distinction. That's pretty much the entire point of this fucking report. It's not, Muslims are bad guys, they have gangs and they're going in prisons and stuff. It's not that. It's like, okay, these are the groups in prisons, this is how they operate, but don't get these people confused with these people, because these people aren't really part of those people, and those people don't really want to have anything to do with these people, even though you may, as from an outsider's perspective, see them as being completely the same thing, because they're not.
And there are currently about 13,000 Muslim prisoners in England and Wales, and that's about 15% of the total jail population.
Of which 1,300 will be in Category A prisons, which is the only thing you have been talking about.
And in 2018, 175 prisoners were serving sentences for terrorist offences linked to Islamist extremism,
which accounts for 13.76% of the Muslim population of Category A prisons, or 0.21% of the general prison population. That is the scope of the problems we are talking about right now. Like, is it a problem? Yeah, sure. Is it something that should be sorted? Yes, of course. Is it something that we should be keeping an eye on? Most definitely. But if I was the leader of a political party, is it something I would be willing to torch my reputation and electoral prospects to be able to talk about and introduce complete fucking political poison to my party? No, that's gonna be a hard pass from me. No, what the fuck you and fucking Paul Joseph Watson put in like Jared Batten's tea at that meet and greet you had, but bruh. Oh my god, he must be, you know what? It's probably for the best, because I mean, if he took that advice from you fucking people, he must be dumber than you.
Steve Gillian, the General Secretary of the Prison Officers Association, said, "We have been warning for some time about the growth of a gang culture, whether it is the so-called Muslim Brotherhood or others. It is alarming that this report shows that gang culture is now rife within the high-security prisons."
High security prisons, aka Category A. Do we need to keep making this point already? I don't fucking know. I need this to sink in by the time we get to the end. Also, Carl, the Prison Officers Association, that's a trade union. I mean, not to say that his concerns aren't valid, but this isn't a surprise. You know, like they want more money and they want more funding to look out for the welfare of their workers and ensure that they're treated better. Like this is what I would want my trade union to be saying about my job, even if it wasn't fucking true.
Now, the prison service themselves acknowledges that there is a problem with Islamic gangs in prison radicalizing people.
No one said there wasn't. What they're saying is that people like you are misrepresenting the scope of the problem and exactly where that problem is residing, which is in high security prisons. Which is why the article that you're responding to was from a prison guard saying, hey, that problem, it may exist in Category A prisons, but, you know, in the kind of prisons that people like Tommy Robinson go to for contempt of court, i.e. anything lower than Category A, this isn't really such such a big issue? And your response to this was to start reading shit from a Times article that was quoting from a report where the report itself had prisoners saying, as soon as I get to a category B prison, I'm done with Islam because I don't need to pretend anymore. Like, it's the weirdest shit in the world. You're responding to somebody who's criticizing Tommy Robinson by essentially like proving everything that he was criticizing Tommy Robinson for. Like, you realize this, Carl, the Vice article that you're apparently trying to debunk, you're validating all of it. Everything he said, you're backing up with your own incompetence. Because you don't have the fucking base level curiosity to be like, hey, these people are referencing a report. Should I probably try and find that report and see what it says firsthand? Nah, fuck it. If I look into it too hard, it might disprove the point I'm trying to make, right, Carl? And then to top it off, you're gonna run this game like, oh yeah, this proves we were right all along. You're gonna say something like,
this is the opinion of the Ministry of Justice.
And then follow it up by saying some dumb shit like,
and of Tommy Robinson.
Like, how the fuck does that work, Carl? How does that work? How can you be debunking a Vice article critical of him by using a Times article based on a report which validates the Vice article and then insist that this proves that Tommy Robinson has the same opinion as the fucking Ministry of Justice, therefore he's right all along, and this Vice article is wrong, even though the Vice article is backed by the fucking stuff from the fucking report from the Ministry of Justice. It doesn't... And this is the thing, then you need to explain to fucking idiots with the IQ of a glass of water what the problems with this shit are. He like twisted shit into a fucking pretzel. It's... Like, how... Oh my god. Like, how do you fuck up this badly? Every time. He fucks up so badly you can't even explain to people who are uninitiated, who think he's actually fucking intelligent, who don't think he's lazy as fuck, that he actually knows what the fuck he's talking about. You have to explain this shit to them. And then they get pissed off at me when it's just too mentally taxing to even fucking begin to try. Because they don't understand that for me to be able to appreciate and understand their starting position, I would need to hand them a baseball bat and tell them to just keep fucking hitting me until I'm stupid enough to get it. A plan I already see the fucking flaws with, because I strongly suspect that I'll be fucking dead before that happens.
And Tommy Robinson was making this point years ago.
Which point, Carl? The one you debunked or the one that nobody contested?
So why is it, when I post this to my Facebook page and say Tommy Robinson has been proven right yet again, that is a violation of the community standards of Facebook?
Maybe because low-key promoting people on a platform they were banned from by insisting they were right about the thing that got them banned by linking an article that in fact does no such thing is a bit on the nose, Carl. Maybe just a tad.
Your post goes against our community standards on hate speech. We have these standards because we want discussions on Facebook to be respectful. All I said was Tommy Robinson proven right again with a link to the Times article about the Ministry of Justice report.
Which doesn't prove him right, and in fact proves the Vice article that you were trying to debunk right. I don't know what the fuck you want anyone to do, Carl.
This appears to be the best factual information we have on the subject, presented in a way that is not inflammatory.
Until you got hold of it.
It is just a confirmation that the things that Tommy Robinson had been saying about Muslim radicalization in prisons appears to have been corroborated by the Ministry of Justice.
Except it wasn't. Carl, Category A prisons, yada 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 yada.
I didn't make any particular commentary on it, just stated another fact. This has confirmed what Tommy Robinson has always said.
Okay, Carl, for this to be true, either Tommy Robinson would have to be one of the most inept communicators of all time, which is why everything he says and does amounts to bullshit propaganda in the eyes of everyone who isn't currently sucking his ballsack, present company included, or you don't have any understanding of the facts and don't understand the issues or the points of contention, which is why you don't understand that the only person who you've proven right was a prison guard who wrote that Vice article that you misrepresented and were attempting to debunk.
Why am I being censored for that? Obviously, Tommy Robinson has become simply he who must not be named on Facebook, even when we are talking about something that appears to be factually accurate.
Not when you link it with Tommy Robinson. Not when you link it with an endorsement of Tommy Robinson's position, because it doesn't endorse Tommy Robinson's position. It stands in stark contrast to it.
And is not some sort of blanket condemnation of Muslims as a whole.
Yeah, not the good ones, right?
It is just something that is true.
Until you get hold of it and twist it and turn it into something which it isn't.
Anyway, folks, this is bound to go on the register of things that I've done wrong on Facebook, so I'd recommend following me.
Yeah, no shilling. Okay, so the thing I find hilarious about this report that Sargon cites, because he thinks that it validates his fucking position or Tommy Robinson's position. Frankly, what the fuck he thinks anyone is arguing at this point, I don't know. But one thing I do know is that he seems to be going really, in on this idea that this report validates his position and Tommy Robinson's position. So I can only assume that, whatever this report says is basically the views held by Tommy Robinson and Sargon. Which is surprising when I look at the conclusion because, just let me read this bit. As the prison population is changing, especially high security, with an increase in relatively young prisoners serving long sentences, with a greater ethnic and cultural diversity, efforts should be made to recruit a diversity of staff. Well, shit! Who knew?